So the inspiration from our Witness project comes from, well, many sources, but one of them is Whittaker Chambers' book Witness, where he says in there, we are not merely witnesses against communism, but we're witnesses for something. We're witnesses for human flourishing, human dignity, human rights in their most basic sense. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges that Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation encounters time and again is a real lack of people to connect to the staggering numbers of individuals killed by communist regimes and the staggering numbers and statistics, economic, ecological, human, on, suicide rates in the Soviet bloc. It's very hard to connect with mere numbers. And for some people, it's hard even to connect with history, even well told, even geopolitics. And there's a very powerful effect of the narrative form. And so with our Witness project, we have sought to identify those individuals who have a powerful story to tell about living in communism or how a communist regime affected their own lives personally. I think it was in September, I had the good fortune in San Francisco of sitting at dinner with Daniel Magay and his wife, Veronica. And he, just over dinner with a number of people, told me his story. And it so captivated me, I thought we absolutely have to make that story known to many, many others so that they can understand how very bad ideas, a flawed economic theory, when combined with toxic nationalism, can tear families apart, can tear lives apart, can tear whole societies apart. With that, I give you here the story of Daniel Magay.
I'm Daniel Magay. I came from Szeged, Hungary. I won this gold medal in the Olympics in Australia 1956 for fencing, and I'm a witness of communism. I grew up under very, very good circumstances. We had an estate, my father did very, very well, and I had a beautiful childhood. My father was a decent person, he cared about people who worked for us. He did a lot of good for them, but then the war came, that was a shock. When the Russians came over, everything turned upside down. Under the communist system, they started developing the Hungarian KGB. The people who were willing to compromise themselves and be part of the system, they ruled the system. My father never compromised himself. He was a rebel. Whether the Nazis or the communists, he didn't like to take orders from anybody. It's really these kind of people like us were called the enemy of the state by definition. That's how they looked at it. We got a letter from the KGB that we have to leave from our place, so we had no place to go. The only place my father could find was an old abandoned shoemaker's shop, which nobody would even dream of living in. The only job he could get was to go and spray the mosquitoes at the river with DDT. We just didn't really have enough money even to eat. That was the time when people started disappearing. That was a really scary part of my life, and my feeling was that they knew a little bit about my fancy. And for the communists, that was very important. I was now good enough to be on the Hungarian team, and I was selected for the Olympics. I think that might have saved us that they didn't take us. I hated the system, that's true. I felt it took my soul. there was really such a thing as political correctness. You knew what you can and can't say. And even now, sometimes you think back at the time when I should have really said what I thought, and I didn't. They made you scared of yourself and betray yourself. But when Stalin died, people started speaking up a little bit, and nothing happened. Very, very quickly, it actually turned into a real revolution.
At the end of a 6-day fight that astonished the world and shook the Kremlin to its foundations, Hungary was free.
He left for Australia for the Olympics during the time when Hungary was free. By the time we arrived, the Russians reoccupied Hungary. The whole thing turned around, and from elation we went into despair. It happened very quickly, and it was very difficult. Very difficult to decide what to do. We did compete, and we obviously wanted to win. The Hungarian team won the gold medal, so we all have one. There were 50 of us who decided not to go back. The American consul came to Melbourne to give us entries to the United States, so we flew in and we ended up in San Francisco. Under the communist system, everybody had a secret file. It followed you in your life. By the time when the Hungarian government changed from communist to non-communist, my father was dead by then. But the secret files were still there, and I applied to get my father's secret file. It was quite amazing because here it is. This is about 300 pages. What you see here is all the various people who were employed spying on my father. And some of these were friends of my father. One of them was a Protestant minister I knew. And the first time I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I knew things are going on, but I haven't realized that it's so detailed. He did say what he thought, but that's what happened to him. Clearly, my father was one of the victims of communism. Every time I think of it, I am extremely grateful to be in this country. When I was free, then I knew how I felt. It's like you are in a cage. That's how you feel. And when they let you out of the cage, then you know what that is. But freedom is.
Don't you feel like Daniel Magay is an old friend now? And in just a moment, we'll hear from him. A few months ago, a reporter called me to talk about China. And over the course of that conversation, he told me about his father-in-law, who was, we think, the only doctor to have escaped the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. That bloodthirsty regime that would kill anyone even for wearing eyeglasses because you were a suspect, you were an intellectual, an enemy of the class. And we heard his story. He had published his memoirs in French, but it hadn't yet been told to an English audience, and we met Nal Oum over the phone, and our team went out, talked to him, and here is his story. Ladies and gentlemen, Nal Oum.
The more you step on me, the more you press on me, I prepare myself like a spring. I have a mission to do. My name is Nal Oum. I'm from Cambodia. I was a doctor. I was director deputy at the main national hospital in Phnom Penh during the takeover by the Khmer Rouge. I was in charge of a ward of toddler and newborn. At that time, there are a lot of sick children, a lot of disease. I get to know the children. They don't know how to talk, to express their pain. They look at you, okay. I'm going to help you. I remember clearly that day, April 17, 1975, when the Khmer Rouge took over all over the country. I'd been working in my hospital. The young Khmer Rouge came in and they asked me to leave right away. Realizing that something was wrong, I asked them, but how about our children? Without being attended 24 hours, they died. Those young Khmer Rouge soldiers said, no, you have to leave. My feeling of helplessness, of sadness, I still bear in my mind those children who died. In a few hours, it collapsed like the sky falling on our head, and we get lost, everyone. You lost your faculty or reasoning. The young Khmer Rouge, they know only one thing. That is to obey unconditionally their Anga. That's mean the party, the supreme organization. In the eye of communism, a human being has no value until he serves the political party. During our deportation, our march, long march, we start to understand better who's Anga. They are communists, but they hide behind this label. Anga is anonymous. Anonymous is very powerful. You can say, is it Khieu Samphan? Is it Polko? Is it Insuri? It's Anga. And they prefer to keep this muted and mysterious. What is happening is a hell on earth. Not only for my family that died, but for my whole country, my whole people. The whole country is a camp. You cannot go from this point to this point, no. It's an invisible wall, labor camp. We don't have the right to talk, we don't like to even laugh. Never. You communicate between yourself by maybe another body language or another look. You use rather your eye than your tongue. They rely only on violence, on lies, on manipulation. I cannot avail myself to anything that works against humanity, against the human nature. So I cannot become a communist. I learned very quickly about the manner of lying, of fabricating things. I said, okay, I support. But when the time comes, when the opportunity presents itself to me, I said, I stand up. I decided to escape. When the opportunity would present itself, I would be ready to go into the jungle. It would be a jungle between the Thailand and Cambodian border. Even though I know that I had to go into the unknown, I get this kind of courage. I quit my village April 16, 1976. In the jungle now, I have a lot of obstacles to overcome. I get thirsty, I get dehydrated. I have to walk in the day, but the night I have to climb into the tree and sleep into the tree. My mind started to be foggy. I would fall and injure myself. I've been chased by a barking dog. Someone shoot at me and I had to run in zigzag. I did this for 3 weeks. Finally, I get into Thailand. I said to myself, I'm safe. I cried. Still today. Chương. So what I will say here about the killing of Pol Pot 35 years ago, the tragedy is unfinished. This kind of tragedy sometimes keep continuing, but change form, change shape. Even though in Cambodia we see the form of a constitutional monarchy with parliament, with constitution, it's just the appearance to show the international world that Cambodia is a democratic country. But the reality behind the curtain is different. There's still communism. They change only the mask. I had to overcome many orders, many obstacles to reach freedom and tell to the world the truth. It's time to do something to be heard. I am a witness of communism.
Just for a few minutes here, we'll get to ask them a few questions. First of all, Daniel, Nal, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. It is a tragedy, and yet you were willing to share it with us and tens of millions, perhaps hundreds, tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands over the next year or two online who will see this video, and will have a better understanding of what life was like in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge and in Hungary under the Soviet-imposed communist dictatorship there. So thank you. Thank you. I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to sort of look into, how this project actually comes about. We have Adam Hawk Jensen, who's kind of a creative, artistic type from out in California, and we engaged him to help us direct, produce these what I hope you will agree with me are fantastic videos that can allow someone who's maybe not even interested at all in the history of communism, nevertheless see a fellow human being who suffered an awful lot and be able to understand a little bit about why that happened, what life was like, and hopefully that we certainly don't want to repeat that anywhere. and ended in those places that still exist. So I think I'll just ask a couple of questions of our panelists, and first to Dan. You know, why did you agree to do this when I asked you to tell your story on camera and have it edited all up and shortened and put online?
Well, it was very simple for me, because my feeling is that the West has really, because people didn't go through the same kind of experiences, they don't quite understand what is still happening around the world. So frankly, I'm very grateful to you to let me say what I have to say also to Travis and Adam who did the movies. But I have to say that I'm very grateful to Nal, because we just met and I already feel a pretty close relationship with him. And also I learned that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, communism behaves exactly the same way. What he went through, I didn't go through in such a horrible situation personally, but the way communism was introduced over there was very, very similar in Hungary and some of the other countries I know.
And Adam, had you done a project like this, trying to take stories that are very difficult, frankly, to even hear? I mean, this is not the kind of video you just put on when you have a spare 8 minutes, necessarily. Why did you decide to get involved in this?
Well, I did a film a couple years ago, a feature film called Honor Flight, which is about capturing living history of World War II veterans and what they saw in the classroom. And I really learned how what you read in history seldomly conveys the emotional experience of the individual. And it occurred to me that the written word is vital to us as a civilization, but oral storytelling is how we evolve over tens of thousands of years. And television and films is the modern equivalent of that. And all we were using it for was entertainment. And I thought, well, let me try and create the modern fireside chat with elders. Pass along wisdom and capture an individual speaking from the heart rather than simply writing down knowledge on a page. So that was what I brought to it. And I fell in love with this idea of this type of storytelling.
Nal, when you escaped the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, you said like you had something to communicate to the outside world. If you could tell us here in this audience, many of these, I look out and I see faces I know have a story similar. Their family suffered, they personally suffered, but most of them are active in American policy. Most of them have a reach, have an impact. All of us care. That's why we're here. What would you tell us? What can your experience convey to us? What action would you have us take?
Thank you, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to you, to Kim, to Marion, to make this happen. That kind of I expect to have the opportunity to be here today to tell again my story, the truth. It's to me very hard to describe in very short time, very short time to tell all this kind of thing. I would give, with your permission, to all, I would relate just a conversation between a fish and a turtle. The fish is a water-bound. A turtle is amphibious. It can go in the water. It can go under the earth. And so about a chap, the turtle told the fish, oh God, I had the other go to see, already very, very huge, there are trees, there are a lot of things there. And the fish, are you sure? How would you tell me that? I never see things like this here. Hear the story. I've been to as witness to the Oslo in Norway in 1976, then President Jimmy Carter was President of the United States. He sent a telegram for congratulations, felicitation to the organizer and us too as witness. And then there are, in the occasion of the conference press, someone introduced me as a doctor. And then among them, I remember there are 40 journalists and one from Australia. And he told that, are you a doctor? I said, yes. And, oh, I don't believe you. You live in a high standing in society. How could you describe the thing like this? You see between the conversation between the fish and the turtle. He don't believe me. You're a doctor. You used to be in the air conditioning and everything. So how can I believe you? Then I didn't say anything. And someone behind me, I didn't realize someone behind me, a general from the former regime, said, no, what he said is true. The doctor is not like any other doctor. He's not a rich man. He's a poor man. He used to help the poor. Here to answer Macedonian question, I see, when in any big event, in any circumstance of sadness, of despair, I watch people, a lot, they get despair. They get themselves down. And I thought, what? You have in your life, you have to have a choice. If you let yourself down, if you let yourself despair, you can do nothing. You have to do something. And so I said, okay, so I will do something. And so here what I said, I have a mission to do, because I have to overcome anything to get out of this, what I call tropical gulag, with the same thing, and then to tell the truth to the world. What has happened in Cambodia, and yet what is happening now. I didn't say yet. It's a tragedy. I say it's an unfinished tragedy because it's continuing today, still today. It's still communist. They change everything up. They set up a stage for you, for the tourists, for the Westerner to see. Here, I have everything. You see. But really, behind the scene, behind the curtain, they still keep communism. They kill every day. They imprison people, they dare to talk. And so I'm here to tell the truth
Thank you.
on behalf of my people.
Thank you
so much.